Hey everyone, it is Ed Gutowski, and I wanted to create a video today that kind of talks about the next short story we're going to read called Where Have You Been, Where Are You Going? If you can believe it, we are in week 4, so we're halfway through class, and things go really quick in an 8-week class. So I think if you notice Joyce Carol Oates' story, it's called Where Have You Been, Where Are You Going? So let's use that as a talk about where we have been. Because if you think about where we have been, right, we've looked at two important literary figures, right, with James Joyce, who some literary scholars view as the most significant author of the 20th century. We've looked at John Updike, who's considered to be one of the great writers of American literature since the 1950s, better known for his short stories than he is for his novels. And we talked about mythically how we can link Araby and AMP through the theme of Fall from Innocence. So I want to think about how we might link that theme, Fall from Innocence, from Where Have We Been, Where Are You Going, with Joyce Carol Oates. Because Joyce Carol Oates is one of the great contemporary female writers of American literature. She's considered to be a contemporary of Updike. She's still alive today. I think she kind of teaches at Princeton. And I want you to notice how Where Have You Been, Where Have You Going deals with the theme Fall from Innocence, but how different that theme would be if you're a girl or a woman. Because, again, maybe much like Updike, Where Have You Been, Where We're Going, we can kind of set it in the 1950s. The 1950s America, kind of that idealistic America. And the first character we meet is Connie. And notice Connie's a young girl. She's about 15 years old. I always think Connie's kind of the normal 15-year-old girl. I have a 15-year-old, and, I think in many ways what I see with my 15-year-old is similar to what Connie's like, right? Notice Connie is Connie's coming into her own. She kind of checks herself out in the mirror. She has questions about identity. She may have questions about sexual identity. And notice she looks at herself in the mirror and she's realizing that she's kind of pretty and attractive. Now, it's important that we note these details because sometimes students will say Connie's vain, she's checking herself out. And when I get to the end of the video, I'm going to tell you why that's important. Notice her relationship with her family is pretty awkward. Her mother kind of nags her. Again, I think the relationship between the mother and Connie is normal, because sometimes teenagers don't get along with their parents or their mother. However, Connie kind of thinks her mother realized once she was pretty, and now that she's older, she's kind of losing that. It's important to note that the dad is around, but he's very much a figure of that 1950s businessman ethos. He basically comes home, reads the newspaper, maybe watches the TV, but doesn't say much. And we do know that Connie has an older sister that's a little bit vain. A little bit quiet, a little bit plain rather than vain. And then we notice that Connie kind of goes out, she kind of flirts with boys, and then there's that really weird scene. Notice the town's kind of that idealistic 1950s America. There's the burger joint, classic 1950s town. But one night when she's out with the boy, she looks over and there's that really creepy scene where a guy kind of points to her and says, "I'm going to come get you." So when the story gets interesting is the next day, right? Connie's parents leave. They leave to go, can't remember if they go to church or go on a day trip. Connie doesn't want to go with them, which again is normal for a teenager. Then all of a sudden Arnold Friend arrives. And notice Arnold Friend, it's a real strange thing when he arrives because Connie's upstairs, she's listening to music, and all of a sudden this car pulls up in their driveway, honks the horn, beep, 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 and out jumps Arnold Friend, and he says, "Hey, come down here. I'm here for you. Come get in the car." Connie looks down. She doesn't know who this guy is. So she goes downstairs. There's a door, and maybe about 200 feet away is Arnold Friend. And he's like, "Hey, I'm here for you. Come inside my car. Come in the car." Connie's like, "Who the hell are you? I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. I'm here for you, Connie." And notice the language that Arnold Friend uses is really kind of disturbing. He's like, "Come in the car. I'm going to come in you," right? So the language that Oates uses is kind of disturbing. And notice from a distance, let's say it's 200 feet, Arnold looks like a normal teenager, right? But notice that he's using some language that says a theme of the story could be image versus reality. Because if he's saying, "Hey, come in here, I listen to all the cool kids join me. I listen to all the cool music." And if the story was set in 2024, he'd say, "Hey, I'm listening to Taylor Swift." But instead what he's saying is, I'm listening to Madonna. And notice the difference between those two types of music tells you that Arnold Friend isn't what he appears. And as he gets closer, and let's say now he's like 150 feet from Connie, he says, come on, come into the car, right? You'll notice that his clothes look a little bit different, right? Notice his face looks a little bit different. It's almost like he's got like some wax on his forehead, right? So he's trying to appear younger when he isn't. And then notice, if you look at the car, Connie kind of looks at the car, notice there's someone in the car. The car is gold. It's got weird numbers written on it, and it's got a stupid phrase. I think it's got a stupid phrase that says, my other car is a UFO, right? I got dings in it. And all of a sudden, the person in the driver's seat, notice he's listening to something. He's got something in his ear, right? What's he listening to? There's two theories that maybe he might be listening for a police radio, or he might be listening to the same music that Connie was listening upstairs is coming out of the car. Either way, it's creepy. And at one point, the driver of the car says, hey, do you want me to go in and rip out the telephone? And he says, shut up. And he says, Connie, I won't do that as long as you come in. And then as he gets closer to the door, notice he's really different. Notice he's got kind of got a limp. And it's almost like he's got a hooved foot. So there's some implication that he might be the devil. And he says, all you got to do, baby, is come out of the car and come with us. No one's going to hurt you. And Connie's freaking out, right? She's like, I'm going to call the police. Don't do that, but you'll force me into the car. And then the story gets kind of weird because we don't know if Connie blacks out. We don't know if she has a panic attack. There's some implication that it's almost like she got stabbed. Well, remember that the devil can have a tail, and maybe the devil stabbed her with his tail, but all of a sudden Connie kind of blacks out, and when she wakes up, she walks out of the car with Arnold Friend. And notice at the end of the story, we don't know what happens to Connie. It's possibly that he rapes her, it's possibly he rapes and kills her, but we don't really know what happens to Connie at the end. And that's where that theme of Fall from Innocence comes into play, because notice how different the theme of Fall from Innocence is for a young boy than it can be for a girl. And so this, many cases that Joyce Carol Oates is kind of considered to be in many ways kind of a feminist, because she's examining, such an issue of sexual abuse, possible rape, kidnapping, right? And one of the things that upsets me about this story is if Arnold were to get arrested, he could say, hey, she came out of that room out of her own free will. I didn't force her. And that really, really upsets me. And if we go back to the beginning of the story and we look at, let's just say that Connie comes back alive, she comes back home, who's she going to tell? Is she going to tell her mom? No. She's not going to tell her dad because she doesn't have much to say. So Connie wouldn't really have anyone to tell if she were to come back from this trip, right, and Arnold doesn't kill her. There's all sorts of really interesting interpretations of this story, right? The fact that the car is gold is important because there is a story in the Bible where the devil arrives in a gold chariot and he comes to a guy's house and he's basically going to rape and seduce his wife. So there's a weird sort of mythic criticism where we can tie the story back to the Bible. Notice Arnold Friend, the last thing he is your friend. If you take the R out of friend, his name can read, I am a fiend. The numbers on the car have a significant meaning because if you look at the numbers on the car, they're all going lower. And and I think this numbers, I'm just guessing because I don't have the book with me, but if you think they're going like 38, 28, 18, right? Well, it's as if he's counting up numbers. The next number he might add up is 15, which is Connie's age. If you add up all the numbers on the car, they equal the number 69. And then there's a really interesting theory that a student came up with. Students come up with the best themes. And I love when students do this. But I one time had a student say that he thought Arnold Friend was an alien, a space alien. I said, well, how did you come back with that idea? And he said, well, everything about Arnold Friend is just off, right? He's trying to fit in. He's trying to appear like a human, but it's clear that he's not human. The fact, right, that he has something peeling from his face might suggest he has makeup, but it's like his skin is peeling off as if he is an alien, right? Notice that The car is supposed to be nice, but it's all beat up. And on the car itself, it says, my other car is a UFO. And I think that's kind of genius, right? Because Arnold Friend could be an alien, because if you think in the 1950s, there was those classic stories about an alien would come down from space, and what would he do? He would come down and he would kidnap someone. So this could just like be an X-Files episode. So there's a lot going on in Joyce Carol Oates' Where Have You Been, Where Are You Going? But I just kind of wanted to give you kind of a plot summary, obviously, and then kind of talk about some ideas that the story represents. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you think about the story, and looking forward to reading your discussion board questions. And I think it'll be excited to see what you think of the story.